Hi everyone, that's our second test video, and we are going to have a special guest today. That's our language assistant Bolan, and we are going to have half an hour conversation about this year, how everything happened, what didn't happen and what happened to us. So I collected I asked a couple of students to ask questions about how this year was, and Mol is going to answer them at times. But this is a surprise video. We are shooting in one scene and we're not going to montage anything, so we can consider it live. Hi Molly.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
We are like in the real studio with real soft to record everything, right? So first of all, the situation. Let me explain what happened. This week, suddenly Russia decided to lock down. So we have the universities are moving to a new system. We have online education now, and we're taking this huge train and moving it to the new railroad, and we put the railroad in front of the train as it moves. So it's been very stressful and interesting, and let's see this crisis as an opportunity. But unfortunately, a lot of traveling is being cancelled now, and nobody knows exactly how good the flights are going to be in a few months, weeks, and so on. So we are going to say goodbye to Molly this week, and it's been a very pleasant year, a very good experience, so we decided to meet and discuss this year.
Yes.
So, when are you leaving?
So I am leaving Russia tomorrow morning, Saturday the 20th at 10 a.m., which is very sad for me. I'm very heartbroken. But I think given the situation, it's like you said, everything is just so unknown. And so I think at a time like this, it's important for me to be with my family. And it's also kind of cool because tomorrow is my mom's birthday. So for my mom's birthday, I'm gonna go see her.
So there is a silver lining to
Yes.
this dark cloud, right?
Yeah.
And then let's talk about a few words maybe. How is your family doing? Like if you are traveling and here we have all this, everybody has this strange impression that the world is being closed off, that all countries try to become more isolated, to block, and everybody heard this news last week that Donald Trump had this closure of borders for European visitors, but what about you?
Yeah, so things are a little bit, intense, not intense in the United States, but things are very different now than they were 2 weeks ago in the US. Because it's not just the European Union they're closing off, it's also the border with Canada too, they're starting to close. And so in terms of my family is doing just fine. A lot of students that I've talked to, I've told you that I live in the middle of nowhere in the United States. And so there aren't any cases of the novel coronavirus in my town, but still, just to be safe, people are staying home all day, and nobody's going to work, and nobody's going to school. And it looks like it's going to be that way for a couple of months.
Yeah, because this is logical to prevent the overload of the medical system with people who need urgent care.
Right.
It makes sense to make all these measures so that the virus spreads slower, and even if the virus is not that dangerous in itself, because there are more lethal viruses in the world,
Yes.
It makes sense to isolate more and more people so that the virus spreads slowly, and the medical system has the time to digest all these cases.
Exactly.
Good. This is responsible behavior.
Yes.
But
yes.
what is the route of your flight? What is the itinerary?
So I am flying Novosibirsk to Moscow, and then Moscow to New York, and then New York to Boston, and then hopefully, if the buses are still running, I'll take a bus from Boston up to New Hampshire, where I live with my family.
How many hours would that make in one trip?
It'll be about 24 or 25 hours.
Okay, this is bearable,
Yes.
but still very intense.
Yeah.
Like I once had a 36-hour trip, which was like Novosibirsk, Moscow, London, Chicago, Indiana.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to die by the end of the trip, so we hope you survive.
I hope so too.
And text us from time to time when you're in between flights so that we have peace in our hearts for you. Okay, so maybe let's talk about this year, right? We have had a wonderful period of 7 months, I calculated yesterday, and I don't quite understand how time flies, because it looks like just like maybe 2 days ago, a week ago, there was this moment when you were at the airport with the suitcase, we were taking the photograph with so much all love, praise, and then suddenly it's March, and suddenly it's time to leave, and suddenly a lot of things happened, right? Do you have this feeling too, or was it a long year for you?
No, it was so fast. Everything went by so fast. Like, it's really hard for me to believe that it's been 7 months. Which I think speaks to just how wonderful of a time that I've had here. You know, there's that cliche phrase, time flies when you're having fun, but it's true.
Well, time flies when you have work too.
True, it's true. I guess it's been very busy, and I've been very fortunate to try a lot of different things while I'm here and meet a lot of different people and meet so many different students, and I've been able to fill my time. I don't think there's been one day since I came to Russia that I've been bored. You know, there's always something to do.
Except maybe 2 days ago when suddenly...
I was trying to decide what's going on, and
Yeah, I was just, like, everything was changing so fast. Like, 2 days before the isolation period started, the closing off of university started, a student asked me, is it likely that we're going to have a quarantine in the university? And I said, I don't think so. And then suddenly Monday, and everybody's calling, and I had like 70 messages for an hour after the news was announced. And then in the evening, like finally, after 3 hours, when things like kind of got clear, I am calling Bolan and telling her that all her classes for this week are cancelled, and I think I even had, I was laughing because I had this hysterical stage where you have, like, first you learn the news, then you have negate, you are trying to ignore it, then you have anger, then you have hysterics, panic, and then you accept everything, right? So did you have that too?
I did, because I was really surprised when you called me to tell me that it's like, oh, you get another 2-week vacation. Because I really didn't think, you know, that anything was going to happen, especially, like, I feel so safe here.
And also on Monday, when we started this procedure, there were no registered cases of the virus in Novosibirsk. Like, this was like the safest place on earth. Like, I keep telling people all the time that Novosibirsk is the safest place on earth. No earthquakes, no volcanoes, no terror attacks ever, nothing, like absolutely everything is calm and peaceful here. It's like Hobbit's place, the Shire. And suddenly, like, we have this strange reaction. A lot of my friends, they just disbelieve what is happening. They're like, this is just some panic. And then they get into the panic, they start reading the news, updating the pages, and then they start panicking. And that.
Yeah, I think there's like a fine line that you kind of have to balance on between, you know, taking precautions and panicking. You gotta be careful about which way that you're leaning.
Right, so then there is a question about, like, we have viewers here who do not study at the university, so can you briefly explain what you are doing here?
Yes, so my program, the Fulbright program, every year they fund a number of students from the United States to fly to different countries and live there for a year to assist and teach at different universities. And in exchange, there are also, you know, young people from all over the rest of the world that go to the United States too. And so I came to Novosibirsk in this September to be an assistant teacher in this department, the Department of Foreign Languages. And the classes that I've been teaching since I arrived have been speech practice classes. And so those have been like a wonderful opportunity to meet different students and hear their different thoughts and ideas and discuss specific topics, and also to share about American culture while at the same time learning about Russian culture. So a lot of the classes that I had, you know, there's a lot of exchange going on where I would explain how something works in the United States, and then I would ask, how is it in Russia? Is it different in Russia? This is what university is like in the United States. How is university different in Russia? And so a lot of classes that we had were like these big discussion classes.
Yeah, and also you taught speaking club, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so how does a speaking club work? What is it?
Yeah, so speaking club was so much fun every single week. We met twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so when I first arrived in Novosibirsk and began my, assistant teachingship here, I tried a couple different things for the first few meetings. So the first one, it was just, icebreaker games, get to know you. And then the next one, it was all debates. We were debating different topics. And then the next one, we would do different partner speakings. And after each one, I would check in with the different students and see how they felt about the different activities that we were doing. And as the year progressed, what we found was that a lot of students, they really just like having big open discussions.
And I can say that if anyone in the future is watching this video and thinking about employing Molly, I definitely recommend that you employ this wonderful person, because we have had 8 language assistants in our university for 8 years. We are part of this program for a long time. Thank you, Fulbright. And Molly is really good. She's good at teaching. Yeah, it's like everybody who arrives here, all these people, they have never taught before. So that's their first experience teaching English as a foreign language. And everybody who teaches English knows how stressful it is to be in public all the time, to plan so many things beforehand, to control the classroom, to answer questions, to constantly live in this unpredictable stream of decisions, that little decisions you make all the time. And you were doing wonderful. That's my feedback on
Thank you. I do have to say too that I feel so lucky that I am here at the Novosibirsk State Pedagogical University and that I get to work with the most brilliant students. You have no idea. I am so lucky to be working with the students that I worked with this year. I cannot stress that enough, and that made my job so much easier and enjoyable, and just to be working with students who are enthusiastic about learning English. It's it was awesome.
Yeah, teaching English is the best job in the world. General teaching is the best job in the world, because they say there are 3 jobs that are worth doing: feeding people, treating people, and teaching people. And that's really true. You all the time you feel like something, everything you're doing is changing the world for the better, a little bit, but you keep moving the stone for the better things. So everybody has been asking the same question. When I asked them, what would you like to ask Molly before she leaves, everybody's like, how did you like the weather? So yes, Novosibirsk, an intense weather place.
Yes, it is. But I actually loved it a lot more than I thought I would. I know I sound like a broken record talking about how much I loved everything. And of course there were some days where the cold was a little bit too intense for me. Or I really wanted to go for a walk, but it was painful to be outside because it was so cold.
Yeah, the air hurts your face.
Yes.
This is strange for many people in the world.
Right. But I think I have kind of a new appreciation for winter. I think when I go back to the United States, I will have a much better attitude about the winters that we have where I live. And I think it is, especially in Novosibirsk, I've noticed that a lot of people, they're just a little bit more cheerful when it comes to winter here. People, no matter how cold it is, you can usually find people out skiing or walking or ice skating. So I enjoyed it a lot, and I did not die, so that was good.
Yeah, but you were very lucky too, because this was a very unusual weather.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that global warming exists, this year proves that it does exist, because Europe has been in so generally, there are places where there is a month of snow, and in these places this year there has been none, right? And in Novosibirsk, generally there is this intense period of 2 weeks when there is -30 Celsius, which is -40 Fahrenheit, I guess, maybe close to that. So, and then this year we didn't have that.
Yeah,
the lowest was -20, which is
yeah. That's a very good point. Thank you for
But
telling.
there has been a lot of snow. So much snow, it's everywhere in huge piles, and now the snow is melting, and that makes a lot of ice. How did you like ice walking?
Oh, I definitely got better as time went on, because I remember I I fell so many times, like with the first ice that we had. And the worst time was when I had just bought a fresh cup of coffee and I'm walking down the sidewalk and I slipped and the coffee goes everywhere and I drop my bag and I'm on the ground and that was the worst one.
Yeah, so I was carrying my laptop to the university, and this is my like home domestic laptop, which is good, expensive, nice, and I'm carrying it in the rucksack, and I slip, and I feel like something crunches a little bit inside, and I'm like, oh, let it be the backbone, not the laptop, because like
your priorities are really
like everything is in this laptop. I do have a lot of backups, like they're everywhere. I have a hard drive which is outside of, like it's kept outside. I have a cloud where I upload the most important things, but everything which I have been doing for the last week is in this laptop, so it's even more precious to me than my background.
Yeah, it's important stuff.
Okay, speaking of fractures, traumas, injuries, all this medical stuff, right? It was surprising for me. Like usually all the language assistants who arrive, they're like, oh, I want to go to Russian classes, guitar classes, dancing classes, and then Molly was like, I want to go to tourist class. And that's, yes, Juventa, we're speaking about you, but we're speaking in English, so you need to learn English to understand the video. Haha, I'm not going to make subtitles. Now you have the motivation. So tell us about the club a little bit. What is it?
Yes, so the Sports Tourism Club was, you know, something, I remember one of my first days at the university, I saw the flyer for the club, and I remember thinking, oh, that would be pretty cool, I should remember to check that out, and then of course I forgot, and then you texted me, and you suggested that maybe we go to a meeting together.
Yes, I have been seeing this, I have seen this announcement for many years, at the beginning of September, and every time I was like, oh, not this year, and then I remember that you said that you saw it, and I was like, we shall go.
Yeah.
And little did we know about what was going to happen next.
Well, we had many adventures together. And so how the club works is twice a week, I think last semester, twice a week, we would meet for lectures where we would learn all sorts of things, from learning how to tie knots, to learning what kind of first aid to administer for different injuries, to just learning about the different categories of complexity for the different hiking trips and backpacking trips and rafting trips.
I actually learned a lot of things which I have never heard of, and they really work, like life hacks. You know? Like last week, for example, I learned that if you have a zipper which stops working, you need to take a wax candle and I don't know, rub the wax candle against the zipper, and then it starts working again. I had thrown out so much stuff with the zippers that didn't work, and now I kind of try to make a mental register of all these things and think that I could still have been better. And that's
like better not to think about it.
Okay, but the week we joined the club, we went to half a marathon.
We did a half marathon. It was unlike any half marathon I've ever heard about. And how that worked was we were on a team of four young women, which is very cool. And we had
women power.
Girl power, yeah. And we had a map, and on the map were different points that we had to find. I did not contribute much to that part. I was not good at reading the map. And at every point we would take a selfie. And I think we were going around in the woods for maybe 7 hours?
Yes, 7 hours. It started to rain in the middle of that. It was a lot of mud. Like I spent like 2 days washing the mud off all the clothes we had been wearing. And we also didn't walk on roads or on paths. We just walked through the middle of the forest trying to find this little flag on some small tree somewhere. There was an hour when we just walked through the bushes, and we were trying to get through the bushes. I got kicked with a bush on my cheek, and I don't know if I'm using the right word, probably not. So a branch struck my cheek, and I had a very spectacular scar, which looked like I was in a war.
That's so cool. You look so tough.
Like, you know, the cooking scar. There are cooking scars. Like, you show your hand and say, lasagna 1995, and here you're like, that's a branch.
from the half marathon
From
of
the
2019.
2019. Oh my god. Yeah, and then there was this episode in our club life where we went to the ravines.
Yes, yes, and we learned how to rappel down the ravine and then how to climb back up, which used a lot of muscles that I have not developed yet. But it was really interesting to learn. There's just so much to think about with the carabiners and the knots and the ropes. And we had partners that we were always connected to, which made it even more fun.
Yeah, and I can confirm that Molly is is a wonderful partner. Let me try one special effect. I've been trying to learn how to use YouTube, so let me see if this works. Yes, it does. So Molly is a wonderful partner for climbing. And how do I get it away? Oh yeah, here. Oh my god, this life is just getting better and better.
Yes, it's a very exciting time.
There was a small poem for people who studied English. Life is getting more and more interesting, more interesting, more interesting. So now this is like on repeat in my head because this is a wonderful world we live in. We had a lot of things we didn't use before because we were lazy. Now with this isolation, with this virus, with this quarantine, we're going to start using. We got a huge punch in the face, which tells us use the online now.
Yes, being creative and using new tools.
Yeah, and getting back a little bit to you, Venta.
Yes.
Like my impression right now is that there are some astronauts there, like people who were born to be astronauts, but then the USSR collapsed and suddenly the space program was so much smaller and they didn't have anything to do. So they invent creative ways to torture themselves and like going into a ski hiking tour. I don't even know if this is a phrase, a skiing tour.
I guess so.
A skiing tour for like 10 days in -20, sleeping in a tent, making their own tents, which is hilarious and ridiculous and strange and crazy, and they're wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. So then there was one more question which has been asked a lot, has been mentioned a lot, about food. Like, what did you eat here?
So I really like a lot of food that I've been eating in Russia. I really like blini. I really like vareniki.
Who doesn't?
Yes. I don't eat a lot of meat, and so at first there were a lot of dishes that I wasn't really trying or I wasn't really sure about. But then as I kind of became more and more interested in what are all these dishes that people love, I started eating a little bit more shawarma. And mantli I really like a lot. And honestly, like I really thought that I would start to miss American products while I was here, but I don't.
Like peanut butter?
Even peanut butter. It's like, I got enough other good things here.
Yeah,
and there's so many sweets. There are so many bakeries all over the city and so many coffee shops all over the city.
All hail the coffee shops of Novosibirsk.
It's true. And so that's something that I'm really going to miss, is having so much access to so many beautiful desserts. It's different in the United States where things, a lot of the baked goods here, they appear to at least to be very homemade and not mass-produced.
Yeah, because in the United States, they usually, if there is a network, a chain of stores, they're going to bake everything in the same place and then freeze it, and then in the place where they sell it, they just unfreeze it and bake it.
Yeah.
And here in Russia, it's still not quite a very accepted method.
Yeah.
Because you can't do that, but this means that it's like low quality coffee shop, and all the good coffee shops are going to have something cooked right in the place. Yeah, and it's good. It's really awesome. And also this year we have like 2 coffee shops around the university, so it has become much better. Like 10 years ago there was an empty field around the place, and now it's like in the morning, go for my coffee.
It's very convenient.
I think I advertise something. Product placement without knowing that it is product placement.
It's a good product to promote.
Yeah, let's promote one more product. We have another special guest today.
Who's my favorite? Yes, that encouraged students to talk when I would throw it at them. But yeah, he's been very, very useful in a lot of the lessons this year. So he'll stick around for whoever comes next year, hopefully.
Yeah, he'll stick around. Also, like speaking about traveling, right? So have you had any chance to see anything in Russia except ice, snow, and coffee shops in Novosibirsk?
I did. I was really, really fortunate in that I got to travel a lot over my very long winter break. And so I started in Novosibirsk, obviously, and then I took the train to Krasnoyarsk, and I stayed there for a few days, and I visited the enormous nature reserve, Stolberg, and I saw the cliffs, and I met a lot of wonderful people there who I was able to go hiking with and share this exploration with. And then from Krasnoyarsk, I went to Irkutsk, and Irkutsk was a really interesting city for its history, I thought. I really enjoyed learning about the Decembrists and the lives that they built there after they were sent out to that region.
Yeah, it's like this idea, like the Roman Empire has this appeal to people that there were limited groups of people who traveled far away and brought civilization with them. And then the Decembrist story is a similar story when they go to small towns in the middle of nowhere and they build their little world in this province. They bring this capital life, this flavor of meetings and dances and balls and lifestyle, which is characteristic of capitals, not of provincial places. And Novosibirsk used to be called Novonikolaisk. It did not take part in all of that because it was young, bold, appeared like 120 years ago, 25 years ago, and just sprawled into a huge megapolis in the middle of nowhere. But you also saw St. Petersburg.
I did. I went to St. Petersburg, and I've taken a few trips to Moscow for a couple of different reasons, like to visit and then for different conferences. And Yekaterinburg, I went there for Thanksgiving, which is really wonderful. So I got to meet other Americans, so we could all celebrate Thanksgiving together, which was really special because Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, and I would have been very sad to not celebrate it this year. And again, it's a really amazing city. I'm sorry to bring it up.
No, Yekaterinburg is wonderful. It's just that while Molly is apologizing, is that I also had a planned trip to Yekaterinburg this week, and it was cancelled. And again, I don't get to see Yekaterinburg, but I will.
Yes, one day soon.
Sometime in the future. Yes.
Yeah, but I like that city a lot too.
And also, did you travel to Europe in the middle of the year?
I did. So I have an older brother who actually lives in Luxembourg, and around the holidays, I did miss my family a lot, and so I went out to visit him in January after the New Year. And so I visited him in Luxembourg, and because Luxembourg is very conveniently small, we were able to travel to the other countries around it too. So I visited Germany and France and Belgium too when I went to go see him.
Yeah, and I think we were in Germany around the same time, but we didn't meet because we were in different places.
Yeah.
And at that point, there was absolutely no case. There were no cases in Europe, I guess, at all, because this COVID-19, I think that's the name. It was only localized in one Chinese province, and everybody was slightly stressed out, but not really thinking that it was going to go and get them.
Right.
So it was a very calm and peaceful time to travel.
Yes, it was.
Unlike the time now when people are at the airports and staying and waiting for their flight because lots of flights have been cancelled.
Yeah, that's going to be me tomorrow morning.
Hopefully not. Hopefully you will get on the flight and go directly to the place you wanted.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, so generally let's maybe start wrapping it up, right? So what are your plans now? What are your plans?
This is a very good question.
Yeah, like here we have plans for this month. We are going to move to the distance education, and a lot of people believe that it's going to last a little bit. Like this isolation period when we preemptively isolate the university from students, close off the university. I think it's going to last longer than 1 month.
Yeah,
supposedly, because everybody in the world kind of says that it's going to stay a while, and then it's difficult to be planning anything right now, but just maybe.
Yeah, so So of course I'm leaving, 2 or 3 months earlier than I had planned. But in the short term, what I'm kind of working on or looking forward to is, one, spending time with my family because I hadn't seen them in a very long time. And so once I finish my quarantine period, when I return to the United States, I'm not really supposed to do anything for 2 weeks. But after that's over, my family and I were planning on going camping, which we can still do because we won't be around other people when we go camping. And so I'm excited for that. And I also have to start looking for a job, which will be an exciting prospect, I think.
What kind of positions are you looking for? Like, what would you like to do?
Yeah, so a lot of students who know me know that I studied journalism when I was in university as an undergraduate student. And so what I'm hoping to do is get some more experience either as a staff writer for a newspaper or a freelance writer or freelance photographer for a newspaper or magazine. I think right now I just need to develop my writing skills more and keep practicing and learning how to become a better writer and finding people who can also mentor me and give me feedback. So those are like my two goals for the next few months, is to improve my writing skills more and to find somebody or make connections in the industry so that when things do settle down a little bit more, people start going back to work, I will be in a better position to start applying for.
You can start writing a book. Writing a book is always a good method to improve your writing skills.
That's true. The more you do it, you get better and better.
Especially the idea that you need to structure it.
Yeah.
I recently published a small aid for articles, like how to use articles in English, like the, and the zero article. And I was surprised how difficult it is to decide what the structure is going to be, and then keep to this structure.
Exactly.
Because you keep thinking, I need to do a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, and you end up in a huge project which is totally not the level of it requires the level of skill and so much time that you don't have at all.
Right.
So you can try that.
Yeah.
Or we can Skype.
Yeah.
Actually, we can try to record something else.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but nobody's sure about anything now.
That's the exciting thing.
Yeah, everybody, one more special effect. Da, 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 da. Yes. What's going on? How do you... I see.
Yes.
Here it is. Good. So yeah, I'm going to learn how to do it better. Right, so thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you for being with us this year. It's been a wonderful year.
It has been. I am forever going to be so grateful for this year and for the people that I've met. It's been so wonderful. And thank you so much for everything you've done for me and helped me with this year.
Half a marathon.
Half a marathon. What a long way we've come.
Okay, so we're saying goodbye to our viewers. What do you call them?
Yeah, your viewers.
You call them viewers. Onlookers?
Viewers.
Viewers. Okay. Spectators? No, that's for sports events.
Yeah,
viewers. So I have been told that you need to say subscribe to my channel. So subscribe to my channel, and we are going to keep meeting other wonderful people. Bye. And cut.